Well, we're now into yet another issue of 1851. As you've noticed, we've now taken the bi-monthly approach, so there's 2 covers each month. Make sure you look up in the corner, wherever that is, and click on our covers. You'll see that this month, or this second half of the month, first half of the month, whatever it is athletes and franchising. Athletes and franchising. I find athletes in franchising and athletes and franchising to be a very interesting topic. There are groups out there that are pushing education among current athletes on why it's time to invest in franchises. I remember meeting a gentleman, former NFL athlete, Michael Stone, who talked about his vision on why athletes and franchising would make sense. He said, and I tend to agree with him, that an athlete, let's say the average career of an athlete is 3 years, and data would support that an NFL player is not going to be in the league for 12 years. With 72 players on a team, mathematically it just doesn't sustain that long. That the bottom portion of the NFL athlete could be removed after a few years of playing, and then obviously the heavy physical toll it takes on their bodies could also force them out of the league. But let's say that they make $750,000 league minimum salary during that time, no endorsement deals. You take off half of that for taxes. You went and bought a house for mom, a car for dad. However that works out, the money goes away very fast, and very, very often because of the perception that you are invisible as an athlete, that people want your autograph, they want you hanging out at their clubs, they look at you like you're a hero. It's hard to protect your income, and therefore franchising seemed like a logical step, that if you take a portion of those funds that you're making as an athlete, invest that into your next business, then you could potentially protect the money that you've been earning in professional sports, and now cross-apply that to making this so that your money works for you for the rest of your life, that you can scale it. On a challenging side, because athletes do come from a place where they are the hero, they are at the top, they get the free shoes, they get the free treatments, they're kings. Sometimes that connection doesn't necessarily bridge well with franchising, so the reverse argument is that athletes are challenging to work with because they don't want to follow the same system, they believe they're above the law. Now in both scenarios, it's pigeonholing the athlete into a singular category. The reality is everybody's a different human being. I remember hearing Junior Bridgman speak at a conference, and he was talking about the 2 interesting stories. One, he owned Wendy's in New York, I believe, and they were tanking. He was playing for the Milwaukee Bucks, if I remember the story correctly. They were tanking, and he felt like he might have to exit. Somehow a robbery happened at one of his stores. The robbers tried to pull the safe through the window. Window cracked, robber fell on the ground, hurt himself and got pissed and torched the restaurant, and Bridgman, the money that he made off of that one burnt down restaurant, ended up giving him the funds to now try again. I remember him also talking about a story in Milwaukee. He was listening to the radio on the way into one of his restaurants, and a lady said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sad for Junior Bridgman. He's working behind the counter at a Wendy's." Well, he was the owner, and he found a way to find success in franchising. He would be one of the more wins in the franchise industry as an athlete that has made it. So I find that in franchising we like to put categories out there, and I've talked about this in the past, whether it's veterans or minorities or athletes or young people. They all get put in these categories, but the reality is their profiles as human beings are going to be vastly different, and the success of them as human beings is not as simple as saying you're an athlete, you're going to do X. If I were to advise an athlete getting into franchising today, what I would say is you're going to feel a need to open up in the community that you live in, and I understand that seems like the path of least resistance. But the place where I know that you're still a hero is in the college that you went to, that market. You're the strength of your brand as a human being surpasses that any other market, because that's the point where you're a hero. That's when you worked your way through to become a franchisee. I went to Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, and I can only point to one NFL player, Billy Cundiff. He was a kicker in the NFL. I think he's in private equity now. If I were advising Billy, I would say go open up that unit, whatever franchise you're getting into in Des Moines, because you're still a hero there. You're one of the few athletes that made it. So I find athletes and franchising to be a very interesting topic. I don't think there's a clear path whether you should do it or you shouldn't do it. More so, keep hunting for that right franchisee to join your system. I also wrote a column this week about what Undercover Boss can teach us about lead generation. We recently had a client on the show, Buffalo Wings and Rings, and it was very fun to watch the leads come in that night off of a show that seemingly is on the downswing of its career as a show, but still the amount of people that are emotionally bonded with that show, the response rate has been great for that brand. I think we need to watch what happens and why does Undercover Boss drive such strong leads for a brand, and part of it is because it humanizes it so well. It makes the CEO feel like he's your friend or she's your friend, and I don't know that brands do a good enough job of humanizing their brand, of making them seem like they are human. A show like Undercover Boss is a full hour to do so. Most brands have a very small window, whether it's an ad in a trade magazine or a radio ad that's 15 seconds. There's limitations on the depth of what you're able to do. But when you're able to humanize your brand and make it feel like you're emotionally connected, that you're talking directly into the eyes of those that are watching or listening or absorbing what you're trying to say, you have a shot at creating this very special moment where now I'm interested in owning a business, but I believe in you as a human being. And that show teaches us the power of that leadership team and how strong that has to be in the sales process. That I'm going to buy because I believe in you, and I believe you have my back in this process. I think far too often we simplify the sales process, or we try to, and it's not that easy. It's very complex. That human element is so critical to it. Whether you're leveraging an athlete to sell your brand or you're leveraging an executive team, trying to add that human element in there will provide you great return on whatever investment you're doing, because at the end of the day, brands don't sell brands, people do. And I think it's very important as you look at shaping or reshaping or restructuring your marketing this year on what's going to work and what's going to drive the most awareness to get you the franchise leads you want, franchisor. Think about that. Think about what Undercover Boss is showing us, because I think there's some hidden messages in there that even if you haven't been on that show, you can take those back and cross-apply those to your brand. Because even if you're a one-unit brand, you have a great founding story, and it's a story worth telling. So think about the human connection, especially as you read through this 15 days worth of 1851 issue. Think about how can I leverage the human aspect to elevate my brand. So thank you for watching the Weekly Sizzle again. Welcome to our next issue, and I will talk to you next week. Take care.